he felt bad because he didn't actually make the drums. And then he skinned a real goat and cut down trees. And then by the end of the year or whatever, he's not even making music anymore.
Yeah, he's got no time with all the goat herding and all.
One thing I really like about your style is your approach to sound design and the way that you approach writing your music. One thing I find with a lot of students is they don't realize yet that every part that you're learning in the beginning is like somebody's full-time job. Like somebody just does vocals,
For sure, for
somebody
real.
just does sound design, and somebody just does writing and whatever. So when it came to like getting better at sound design, I get a lot of people ask me, how to grasp the fundamentals of sound design. And there's a few things we've touched upon before, like making sure that like your FM, your LFOs, your filters, all that stuff are locked into nice like resonances and there's a solid tone. But it still feels like when people approach sound design, there's this almost overwhelming factor to it because there's just so many knobs and whatever, regardless of what synth you're using. So, as somebody that I look at and think really has sound design down, you want to give a little insight into sort of how that journey looked like for you and roughly, quote unquote, how long it took you to get good at sound design from beginning to end, sort of like how did you approach that process?
Sure. Yeah. Well, for the longest time, up until like this year, pretty much, I was just legit twisting knobs and then, seeing what sounded good, watching the odd YouTube tutorial to obviously understand what knob does what, FM from B and that kind of thing. But other than that, just randomly doing stuff. And I really liked it because I would always get cool results that weren't necessarily the best, but like I'd never heard before from other people. So, that was, really important to me. So like, yeah, that's pretty much it. The only other real tip I would say is just lots of automation, regardless of if you think it sounds good. If there's not lots of automation and filtering and movement, then it's probably kind of lame.
Yeah.
So basically I would just like loop a section and, even if you're just using like a cymatics preset, like if you're not too into sound design, you can make it sound a lot better in the mix if you just kind of like automate a reverb throw, or even not even a reverb throw where it's like lots of reverb, but just a little bit of like a reverb tail, or just a couple auto filters, or you know swoop in a frequency shifter at like 20%, so it kind of gets a little racy sounding for a split second. Like, it doesn't really matter. Choose your favorite effects, whatever sounds good, and just automate them so it's not just like a weird stagnant stiff kind of sounding sound.
What's your thought on processing in the patch versus post processing? And do you have any tips for people as far as post processing goes? And just for perspective, how much do you do within the synth versus post?
For sure. So it kind of just depends on what sound you want to go for. For example, like if you listen to like Riot, who are super talented, like they mix like metal, all different kinds of stuff, like orchestral stuff, like Middle Eastern type sounds, and it just all fits together really well. And the dubstep part ends up sounding really good, but it kind of just sounds like they're just kind of manipulating a preset, but it sounds great. But then there's like people like Sudden Death, where there's no way you would ever sound like that if you're doing everything inside Serum. So it just kind of depends on what you're going for. I don't think one is really better than the other. I personally am not the greatest at sound design, so I always do a lot of like post processing and resampling to get weird sounds instead of doing it in the patch. So I'll kind of get the patch to be somewhat not sucky, and then just do everything outside of the patch. That's just kind of how I work, and that's how I've seen a lot of people work through, Icon workshops and Defier workshops. And there's a local studio here, Night Vision, that does workshops with people, and same thing for them. So yeah.
That touches on something I like to tell my students a lot, which is like focus on your strengths. If your strength isn't starting patches from the ground up, start with a cool patch, tweak it a bit till you like it a bit better and it's a little more unique to you, and then record like a melody or a chord progression, you really like in it, and then focus on doing some cool happy accident, mud pie,
Right.
some
Yeah.
simple stuff that can yield you some good results, even if not all of it is what you were looking for. It's like, oh, that one little moment I'm using as a turnaround like 6 times in the song because that shit was lit.
Totally. I'm sure you guys have probably talked about this on the podcast, but it's kind of like the old saying, some dude wanted to make a song, so he started with samples and loops, right? But then he felt bad, so then he sound designed his own stuff. But then he felt bad, so then he tried to like program his own synth. But then he felt bad because he didn't have like acoustic drums, so then he bought acoustic drums, and then he felt bad because he didn't actually make the drums. So then he skinned a real goat and cut down trees, and then by the end of the year or whatever, he's not even making music anymore. So it really just depends on.
Yeah, he's got no time out with all the goat herding and all.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
so just don't really worry about it that much.
You touched on something that I really love about the process of making electronic music, which is you don't need to know what every little minute function does.
Totally, yeah.
You can screw with it until you like it, and then save the project. Save the preset, save the rack that's doing the thing that you like. Who cares how you got there? Who cares if you even meant to do that? If it generates something that you like, now you have that thing. You just created a tool that you can add to your toolbox, and I love that because it's not like, when you're playing guitar and you're recording a riff into the computer. Oh my God, how many times does it take to actually get that thing just right, where you're like, yep, that's the one I'm going to use? Hundreds. And if you want to play something very similar but one note different, you got to take those 100 takes again to get that next one that you can use for that next project. It's not like that when you're working in the DAW. You get to, if you make this preset that works really well, you can run that through 5 different melodies for your next 5 songs.
Totally.
Start an organization called Millennials Against Real Instruments.
That's hilarious. That's awesome.
I like to tell people, like, nobody was mad at Jimi Hendrix for not inventing his own instrument or not building his own guitars or
exactly.
They put it upside down.
He didn't build the guitar. He turned it upside down. He lit it on fire. He shredded in a way that was his own. He didn't invent his own amp. He just cut the amp he already had with a razor blade so it sounded more fucked up. Like, he took what was there and
so
working for everybody.
Preset,
exactly. He took the preset and he tweaked it. He's like, oh, nobody else is doing it quite like this though. And that's enough. Especially if you've got something else original about your track, or an original melody, an original vocal pre-drop that people really relate to or like repeating.
I like it. What's up, humans? It's Luke, your friendly neighborhood trap Jesus. Thanks so much for watching the podcast, checking out our videos. We truly appreciate you. So, Rip Kenny, Tesco, and myself got you a gift. We made you a free sample pack. It's got basses, it's got FX, it's got crazy percussion and Foley sounds, and it's free. It's all yours. Just click the link in the description below. Also, make sure to hit that subscribe, hit that like button, and share this with your friends. We appreciate you. Peace out and peace among worlds.